I want to have a team or a group of people that it's fun to go to the office and work with versus, a bunch of Debbie Downers that are, kind of, the sky is falling, right?
Hello, and welcome to the Hire Yourself podcast. We publish episodes twice a week about franchising and business. Each Monday, we'll release a 30-minute episode where we dive deep into a topic. Thursdays are our shorter, lighter episodes where we will discuss things like business resources or topics of personal growth. I am one of your hosts, Pete Gilfillan, and I'm joined with my business partner, Nat Truitt. And together we have every experience in business and franchise ownership. We have worked hard over the years to realize our dreams and control our own destinies. Our experience will help you become a better business owner and franchisee so that you can live life on your own terms. So, Nat, I thought we'd have some fun today. We're going to talk about the 6 characteristics of an ideal franchise candidate. And I was thinking about how we do this. And as you remember or recall, I was with Ford for over 17 years. I was raised in a Ford family, right? So my grandfather owned a Ford dealership in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. My father owned a Ford dealership. My career at Ford for 17 plus years. And then I have a best friend that is a Ford dealer. So whatever, I'm a Ford dealer. Ford. I am a Ford customer, right? There is no other car that can be in our driveway but a Ford. And I think a little bit about Ford and the guy that all started, Henry Ford, right? And I really wish we would have been around during the time that he started Ford Motor Company, because he was an innovator. He's kind of like Elon Musk is today, isn't he? It's absolutely amazing. And as you know, I'm a big fan of quotes. I love quotes, and Henry Ford's got some great quotes. So what I thought we'd do is tie some of his great quotes into the 6 characteristics of being a good franchise candidate. Sound like a plan today?
Yeah, I'm up
All right.
for that.
Well, I hope you have some good quotes for us. But as we talk about Ford and this opportunity of finding the right opportunity, right? So you and I work with corporate executives all the time. And the idea is that, I get on the phone with somebody and they say, I'm in career transition. I'm exploring my options. I might take another corporate job. I might buy an existing business. I might start my own consulting gig. And I'm interested in franchising, but is franchising right for me? Is the question I get. I'm sure you get that same question.
Yeah. I always actually try to cover that early on because I do think that that's one of the most important questions. If you're not kind of mentally or psychologically or, wired up to be a good franchise owner, then we might need to take a different path for sure.
Yeah, I always ask the question, are you right for franchising? Right? It's not, is franchising right for you? Or are you right for franchising? Because it's a mutual process, right? You're going into business with a franchise system or a franchisor, and you have to be as appealing to them as they are appealing to you. And sometimes people forget that. They think they're just evaluating the franchise company. They don't realize they're being also evaluated. And so as we look at becoming a business owner, I think we'll talk about the 6 characteristics today. So how about if we start out with the first quote and we'll kind of get into these 6 points.
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes from Henry Ford is kind of around having a positive attitude. So he said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And I know for me, that was something I kind of, started thinking about, early on. And it's a little bit of a mind bender, right? Because you start to realize, wow, this is really impactful or really true. Like if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so, I think it's super important to have, a glass is half full type mentality versus a glass is half empty mentality. And I see this a lot of times with, people I'm working with, they typically the guys that make good franchise owners, they have a track record of success. And so they kind of understand, that they need to keep momentum on their side, and having a positive attitude is huge.
Yeah, I mean, people laughed at me at Ford because every time I'd answer it, someone say, "Hey, it's a great day at Ford," right? And I always had this positive attitude. Like if you ask me how's my day going, I will always answer, "I'm having an awesome day." right? I won't ever say it because I always want to believe that it's going to be a great day. And that's why I look at it, heck, I'm alive, right? So it's a really good day. But this idea of having a positive attitude. Do you remember, Nat, when we were racing cars out at Bob Bonnarant down in Arizona?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. And do you remember the lesson they taught us, right? So I thought it was pretty cool. They were talking about when we're driving at high speeds, one of the problems people have is if they start staring or looking at the wall, that's where they end up.
Right.
And so what they say is don't look at the wall, look where you want to go, right? And it's the same thing with a positive attitude, right? If you're positive and you know where you want to go, you got a lot better chance of getting there than having that negative thinking. Or simply put, you have that negative thinking, you go towards where you're thinking.
Yeah, 100%. And I do think that that's super important to the franchisors as they're evaluating potential franchise owners. They're looking for people that are going to kind of be a positive influence and really contribute to the ownership owner group, the group of owners.
Yeah, and you've been a business owner, multiple different businesses, right? And it's so important as a leader to have that positive attitude, right? So if you walk in and you're talking to your team and you have a negative attitude or you don't have a positive outlook on where the ship is going, where the company's going, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's totally true. It can become a self-fulfilling prophecy either way. So yeah, I think having a long-term commitment to being positive is a really healthy thing for a business owner.
When you hire employees, is that one of the things you look for?
Yeah, for sure. We actually always do like a personality test, so we kind of are, testing early on to see how they're going to fit in with the other team members, and being positive and somebody that we enjoy hanging out with is super important. Actually, another thing that I started thinking about a long time ago is, building a business that I want to be a part of. Component of that for me is having that positive attitude. I want to have a team or a group of people that it's fun to go to the office and work with versus, a bunch of Debbie Downers that are, kind of, the sky is falling, right?
Yeah, I have a buddy that owns a salon suite franchise concept, and they lease spaces to artisans like hairstylists. And he basically told people that are renting, he said, "This is my happy place. We only have positive attitudes here. There's no conflict or anything else like that. This is a good atmosphere. So if you have a negative attitude or any of that kind of stuff, you have to leave my happy place. You have to leave. You cannot be a tenant here." And I thought, boy, that's pretty cool. So.
That's
All right,
awesome.
let's talk about the second characteristic that's important to being a good franchise candidate.
Another quote that I really like from Henry Ford, and it's kind of in the vein of having an open mind. He said at one point when somebody was interviewing him, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And I just think that that is such a profound statement because we're always, people are always kind of competing, they feel like things are so competitive and it's always, we're going head to head. But this kind of that blue ocean concept or strategy of, hey, let's go over here and do something new, which I think in franchising we see a lot is that a lot of times, you have like a proven business model and you can just implement it. So you don't have to, worry too much, but you can just be successful that way.
Yeah, one of the things that I tell people is that when I'm working with them, I tell them up front, I said, listen, I just asked you to give me an open mind. Let me do what I do really well. Because if you have an open mind, you could be exposed to so many more ideas. And, when I get up and I speak about franchising, everybody thinks about Subway, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts. And franchising now is in every industry, right? It's taking over kind of the mom and pop businesses. And so there's all kinds of opportunities. And if you have a limited mindset of what it can be in terms of franchising, okay, listen, I don't want a sub shop and I don't want a postage place, right? Just there is so many opportunities there, but if you can't keep an open mind, you miss so much of that. And I think that's really important that you keep an open mind to
Yeah.
what's out there.
Yeah, a lot of times retail seems like it's on everybody's radar, and it's because there's an Orange Theory or Starbucks on every other corner. We work with a lot of service-based franchises, which you never are going to see a sign for because they're more behind the scenes, but they can be really compelling opportunities. So keeping an open mind is super helpful.
And I think that's the benefit of working with a franchise consultant like at Hire Yourself is the idea is they can push you a little bit. They can understand what you're looking for, what you want to accomplish in the business, and then they can go and find franchises that maybe you had never thought about or you never was in your consideration set, and put you in front of them and help you through to explore, to be open to those new ideas, those new industries, those new types of businesses that maybe you hadn't thought about. I think it's a great resource that everybody should try to leverage because it's certainly free.
There's another Henry Ford quote that I like quite a bit and talks a little bit about experience. And he said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about experience, uh, today's world, so many people they're worried about making mistakes, right? And as you think about as we grow, all adults have made mistakes, right? And the question is, have you learned from the mistakes? Can you take what you've learned and progress and become better? And but we're in a society where you know, people are pretty critical. They critical if you make mistakes, but I think mistakes are a way in which you progress. Like Thomas Edison, right? Think about all the experiments he did and what he had to go through just to create the light bulb, right? Was it like 300 different tests or something like that? Crazy, just to get to where he was at. And so I think it is very important that as we look at going forward, that we take this experience and leverage it.
Yeah, and I think that regardless of your age, I think like should never be afraid of kind of starting again or reinventing yourself. And with a franchise, you have a lot of tools and resources to kind of do the research and see if it's a good fit for you, and if it's an opportunity where you can leverage your experience.
And I think about the podcast we did the other day where we were talking a little bit about being 50 and in a corporate or executive role and how that can be dangerous, right? You can get thrown out or kind of pushed out before you're ready. And as we talk about being older, we have more experience. We just have a wider wheelbase of experiences that allow us then to maybe go and leverage that with a business. So as you think about, okay, if I'm going to do my own thing, I'm going to invest in a business. I've had the fortune to make mistakes in the corporate world, learning whether it's with people from a leadership standpoint or just from operational standpoint or sales. But this idea is that you have all those experiences, and if you can take that knowledge, that experience that you've gained, and then go build your own business, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that idea of investing in yourself. And another really interesting Henry Ford quote is, old men are always advising young men to save money. That is bad advice. Don't save every nickel, invest in yourself. And so I kind of see that too, as you're kind of evolving or reinventing yourself. I think I love that concept of kind of reinvesting in yourself, investing in a business, personal growth, all that kind of stuff. It's really powerful and kind of helps you, with your evolution.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're not willing to invest in you, who will? Right? And so as you have those resources, you got to take a shot on yourself, because if you're not going to do it, who's going to do that? And we work with a lot of corporate executives, and they believe that you have to have all cash available, right? And they don't look at anything else. They think, well, I got to have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cash available if I'm going to invest in a franchise business.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
simply
I'm
not
seeing
true.
kind of both extremes right now. Some guys, they're like, "Oh, I don't have, this huge lump sum." And then other guys are like, "Oh yeah, I just have to put down, 10%," which, a lot of times that sounds really good, but I think you need to have kind of a healthy balance, positive net worth and some, investment dollars that, put down. But the great thing is the lending environment is super friendly right now for franchises. So I think that people are probably able to do more than they maybe even realize.
Yeah, and I think as people look to invest in a franchise, they got to realize that you can leverage capital in many different ways. So if you have equity in your house, you could do a home equity line, and so many people now are using their retirement dollars through what is called the ROPS program, where they can invest in a business instead of investing in stocks and bonds. Their retirement account invests in their business. And so, as we think about investing in a franchise business, I think there are three characteristics, right? Number one, you have to have a net worth, right? You can't borrow everything from that standpoint, right? I mean, that's part of it. Number two is you're going to have to put some level of collateral down or some level of liquid capital. And again, that can come from many different sources. And as we're older, we've got those resources available. And number three, and we don't talk about this much, is a good credit score, right? If you're going to go do some financing of the business, you have to have a good credit score.
Yeah, I think the takeaway is there's lots of different ways to basically invest in yourself and invest in a business these days. Part of what we can help guide people through and or connect them to resources because we know what other people have had success doing to get started.
Yeah, there's some great resources out there that can kind of help you figure out how do you take your available resources and leverage them in the most efficient way to invest in a business.
Yeah, so once you kind of pulled the trigger and wrote that big check or whatever, I think one other thing that is pretty important is kind of your business acumen. Henry Ford said, stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time, which I think is sometimes counterintuitive because I know a lot of times, when people are see especially early on when you're writing those big checks for marketing and advertising, it's kind of nerve wracking, but I think that's where that business acumen comes in. And you're also, you're investing in yourself. There's that saying, you have to spend money to make money too. The nice thing about a franchise is that you're paying for a proven product or service, but you're also paying for a proven sales and marketing strategy.
Well, I think the big thing is that as a corporate executive, as we talked about earlier in the podcast, you have that business acumen, you've gained that marketing experience and maybe the project management and all that kind of stuff. You take that with your leadership skills and you leverage a franchise system that has all the systems, process, procedures, and support that we know is so important. And it's about having this business that you're building and growing. So you're leveraging that experience for sure as you build this. But I think it's also this idea that you want to be in a position where you are taking it and you're driving your own business, so you're in control. It's your track record now as you go forward and you build the business.
Yeah, I think when you take that huge leap of faith and write that check and you're spending money on marketing and all that, another quote that I really like, and it's kind of along the lines of a commitment to high level of service, but Henry Ford said, employers only handle the money, it's the customer who pays the wages. So I really like these quotes because they're kind of mind benders for me a little bit. It's like you're thinking about, okay, as the employer, I'm a conduit. It's the customer who's paying the wages for the employees and for me. And, it's just, what do you think about that, Pete?
So I think about that as a corporate executive, your customer really is your employer, right? So as a corporate executive, you're serving the corporation. As a business owner, you're serving the customer.
Yeah.
So, right, as a corporation, they pay you based on your performance, how you satisfy them. And as a business owner, the customer's paying you. And so I really I like that quote a lot. What's that quote you say that when you have a job, you're just renting your income opposed to, I never can remember your quote there.
Um,
A job is
all right, let
renting
me
your
think.
income.
Let me think. No, like having a job is renting your income, but when you own your own business, it's like owning your own income. I don't know. I can't totally remember. But it's kind of like the difference between renting an apartment or buying a house, right? It's like when you have your own business, you're building an asset, but when you have a job, you're paying for someone else's asset.
Yeah, and I think when you own your own business, it's different, right? Because they're your customers and you do everything you can take. I mean, you've had multiple different businesses, and in today's world, with all the different, you can do all these reviews and all that kind of stuff, everything's pretty transparent. And so it's even more important that we have the ability to do our very best job to take care of customers.
Yeah.
Good isn't enough now, right? And you have to be exceptional when it comes to customer service, treating those customers, because to the point, they're the ones paying you, not the corporation.
My senior care business did supervisory visits for all of our clients, and it was fun to have the care manager come back each day, and she was like, I did supervisory visit and this supervisory visit, and they just love our service. And it was just kind of, so refreshing to kind of hear some of those positive experiences and get a little bit more connected to the satisfaction of the client. I think that's rewarding. I mean, when you think about owning your own business, it's really, you're flattening out the duration. So it's like you're so much closer to the customer, providing the service or the product and interacting, really little or no bureaucracy because you're making the decisions. So it's really fun, and I like it
And
a
I would
lot.
say refreshing and rewarding,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I mean, it's in the corporate world, there's just so much other stuff, politics and all the kind of stuff, that if you can just focus all your energy on taking care of the customers and put aside all the corporate politics and senseless meetings and crazy objectives that don't make sense, and you can just focus on what makes you happy and satisfying customers, that's what it's all about. So, as we think about Henry Ford, what a great guy, right? Just an incredible leader, incredible individual, shared so much with us that as we go forward. And I really do believe in this idea that as a person looking at investing in a franchise, you have to have the 6 characteristics. These are all very important as you look forward to, and it's a two-way street, right? You have to be a desirable candidate to the franchise company, and they have to be a desirable company for you to invest in, and it's a mutual relationship. And so when you come to the table of looking at investing in a business, it is about having those 6 characteristics so that you're attractive and, most importantly, successful.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Hire Yourself podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, give us a rating, and leave a comment on iTunes or wherever you're listening to our podcast. Hire Yourself offers some great resources on our website at hireyourself.com. And if you would like more content regularly, follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook. We look forward to you listening again to help you on your journey of living life on your own terms.